What is going on, Couz's Corner family, Mountaineer Nation, Big 12 fans? Here we are for another Couz's Corner live stream. Got my chair pulled up. Hope you do too, because I'm getting ready to serve you up a shot of top shelf content. I'm here with my good friend Mountaineer Paul. How you doing, Paul?
Doing well, man. We finally had a little bit of news kickoff today and some good topics to speak on.
Absolutely.
Should be another rousing episode of Couz's Corner. Top shelf
I hear
stuff.
you. Everybody go check Paul out. He's over at Mountaineer Paul Talks Football on YouTube. You can also check us out
Close to
together on
1,000.
Hoops from the Hills. What's that?
This close to 1,000.
Yeah, he's really close to 1,000, so go sub him up if you haven't yet. And we have a basketball channel that covers West Virginia Mountaineer hoops called Hoops from the Hills. Go check that out. Sub it up as well if you haven't done so. And everybody, please hit the like button as you come in. Whether you're watching this live or on the replay, please hit the like button. It really helps the algorithm. A couple topics I want to touch on. We obviously have breaking news that is broken about West Virginia here in the last few minutes that we will get to here in just a bit. But what I want to do is talk about the topics that I put in the title so that people don't accuse me of having clickbait. But the CW, there's been word going around that the CW has been in talks with the Pac-12. I know, Paul, this stuff is your favorite thing to talk about, but the CW network reportedly had been talking with the Pac-12 about being part of their media rights deal. Well, according to John Alrand and Andrew Marchand on their podcast today, and I actually got the information and got the idea for this content from Greg Flugauer over on his channel, college football speaker around the corner. But it apparently CW is not that involved in this thing. And I got a couple bullet points here that I'm going to throw up to talk about it. But it's that story got overblown big time, to say the least. But basically, it was just there was only one conversation. It wasn't conversations. It was only one, apparently. And it was just about an information gathering discussion. It wasn't even a negotiation of any kind. So it basically means the deal between those two parties is extremely unlikely. And in that podcast, they also said that the networks in general have no urgency to get a deal done with the Pac-12. So if the CW is ruled out, Ion TV has been ruled out, Fox has pretty much been ruled out, TNT's been ruled out, I think.
Yeah.
Who else is left? I mean, ESPN is not willing to spend a lot of money, according to what reports are saying.
As a result, Colorado's heated up, right? I mean, that thing has really took off here the last 24 hours in Colorado.
Yeah,
I think it's as a direct result of a lot of this that's negative, and you think about Dion behind the scenes, he's probably pushing behind the scenes. We've heard reports that that's happening. Dion, outside of Nick Saban and a couple other guys, maybe the most influential head coach in college football, and not even coached a game in Power 5 yet. That's amazing. So he holds weight behind those closed doors at Colorado. They want to keep him. They want to keep him happy. So we've got some pretty credible sources tweeting about that.
Yep. Yeah, it's definitely been it's definitely heating up for sure. And Cole D says Pac-12 better pick a weeknight like the MAC. Pac-12 Wednesdays. I hear you, man.
Yeah.
And Curtis says Colorado is having a meeting Friday. Interesting.
Yeah, I saw that.
Be interesting to see if something comes out of that. I've got mixed feelings on it. Obviously, the travel for West Virginia would be, if Colorado comes in, the travel for West Virginia would be not that great. But at the same time, if it brings value to the Big 12, and I'm not sure if it would or not, but I mean, I don't think Brett Yormark would make the move, and the presidents would make the move if it didn't. But I ain't gonna lie, it would be pretty exciting to have Coach Prime in the league. But something I hadn't thought about, but I heard on a podcast the other day, if this happens, they wouldn't actually officially join the league probably until like 2025 anyway. And he may not even be here by then. You know what I mean? So, or be the coach by
That's a
then.
great point.
So, they're not going to make a decision based on what Coach Prime wants to do, I wouldn't think, even if he does want to do it.
Right.
Because coaches come
Yeah.
and go.
Well, and you've got to consider the fact that it's very possible that Colorado could turn into Oklahoma and what they've been.
Yeah.
It's possible, but on paper, obviously he has to go out there and do it and coach the games, and he may stink the whole thing up with talent.
Right.
We've seen people do that. But if how he coached at Jackson State is any indication, he can coach it a little bit. He's got an incredible staff. He's really put together a staff of pros there. So I don't really foresee any of that happening. He's got an offensive coordinator that can absolutely call. He calls a great game. So I just think that the tea leaves for me read for Dion really doing well there, man. And I think it's something to really consider for Brett Yormark and company. As do you want Colorado to possibly join the conference and run the conference? Would that be good? Maybe it would be good for the program as a conference as a whole, for Colorado to get back to what they were in those early 90s. I don't know. But as a West Virginia fan, it's concerning. That's what I do know,
Absolutely it is. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see how this whole thing shakes out. I mean, obviously we get some kind of news about every day or an update, but Curtis D says, report out ESPN says the Pac-12 isn't a must-have or need. Yeah, I heard that today as well. So, I mean, ESPN's not going to pay a lot of money, it doesn't look like. And everything I'm hearing is that the Pac-12 is wanting a certain amount, and ESPN is just not willing to come to it. And at some point, the Pac-12 is going to have to swallow their pride and take what's being offered, I think, before it's too late.
Yeah. And even at that, I think that the teams still want to stay together. They very much want to stay together.
Yeah.
I still lean towards that. I was listening to the Sikkim 365 guys, and I agree with them and feel a lot of the way they do. I think I just err on that side. First of all, it's not a good look to root for the demise of the conference, even though a lot of them did it to us, and certainly wasn't going to give us an olive branch. But that doesn't mean we have to reciprocate that and root for their demise. And we will give them an olive branch, So
yeah.
It's okay. We can turn the other cheek and not be elitists like a lot of them are.
Right. Big Dan T, thank you for the $4.99 super chat, man. He says PBS is about to heat up. LOL.
Well,
yeah. I mean, look, we're all joking around about it. We're kind of ribbing them about it. But at the end of the day, it would not be good for the sport and for college athletics for the Pac-12 to implode. It would not be good for the sport.
It's a lot of history.
It's a lot of history, and it just gives the SEC and Big Ten even more power. In
the end, yeah, it would.
Because you've got an odd number. You've got the SEC, Big Ten is 2, and then you've got 3. The if you want to call them the lower tier Power 5 teams, whatever you want to call them, there's 3 of them versus 2 of the others. So if there's ever a vote, they can kind of band together if needed, right?
Yeah. I think, it's everybody's, it's hard not to be short-sighted in all this, because it's an immediate upgrade for us if we get the 4 corners or half the 4 corners or Colorado and Arizona or whatever. But in the long run, the additions of Oregon and Washington could further push the SEC to poke around. And who knows in 10 years who the next up-and-comers, maybe it's an Oklahoma State, maybe it would be a Colorado by then, maybe it's a UCF or a Houston who have the chance to be giants. And then you look and, okay, now you're in a situation they may need to get pulled out from under us, and we're getting passed by. So, I think that's a great point to really have some foresight in this thing and be careful what you wish for.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. And look, there's 2 ways to look at this for me and you. As content creators, it's great for business, right?
Yeah.
College conference realignment, teams jumping from one conference to the other, whatever. But as a fan of a sport, and as for college athletics in general, you're looking at it from that side of it, it's not good,
No.
Because we're watching the game that we love change before our eyes. and become a basically a semi-professional sport, which is not what not why we fell in love with it.
It's not what we want. That's
No.
what the XFL's for and stuff like that.
Right. The other story I wanted to touch on is this article was actually written 2 days ago, but the On3, one of their writers came out and did a top 10, or well, not top 10. He ranked the current 14 Big 12 football coaches. And I'll give everybody one quick guess where Neil Brown ended up.
It's got a 1 in it.
Yeah. Yeah, it's got a 1 in it. You got that right. But I'm going to go over this list real quick. Now, this is not my list. I may do my own list, but this is not my list. This is, let me see if I can get a better shot here.
Well, the Satterfield, I think it's debatable between he and Satterfield, really.
Oh, I not even, yeah, I've got my thoughts on it. It's number 1 on the list, Chris Kleiman from Kansas State.
Yeah.
I have no issue with that one whatsoever. The guy has done a fantastic job there. Won the Big 12 championship a year ago. He's won, 8 games 2 years before that. So,
right, and everything he did at North Dakota State.
Yeah, because this writer looked at their whole career, not just what they've done in the Big 12.
Yeah,
I forgot to mention that. I mean, he won national titles at North Dakota State. So,
if he's looking at the whole career, then Neil Brown should have been up the list a little further. But anyway, sorry.
Yeah, that's not a bad thought. And Sonny Dykes is number 2. Obviously, played in the national championship last year. Before that, actually, Sonny Dykes' career had been kind of just okay. But he played in the national championship game, so that means a lot, right?
Yeah, and then he also brought SMU back to prominence when nobody else has been able to.
He did.
That team's been dead since 1981 when Skip Bayless, of all people, broke the SMU scandal.
Yeah. I got a super chat that came in. I got to get to real quick. Then I'll finish the countdown. Jacob Yoho, appreciate the super chat, my man. He says, we got a Minnesota cornerback. We did, and we are going to touch on that here in just a minute, brother, if you can hang around with us. Matter of fact, since you gave us a super chat, let's go ahead and talk about it. Paul, what are your thoughts on the first off, who is it, and what's your thoughts on him?
Beanie Bishop. We were heavily involved with him last year after he transferred from Western Kentucky. He was an all-MAC selection there, multiple interception guy, high tackling numbers while at Western Kentucky, transferred to Minnesota and was, according to Pro Football Focus and other things, the highest graded, not defensive back, defensive player on the Minnesota Golden Gophers roster last year. A slot corner, somebody that's really physical in the slot, can play with tight ends, can play down the seam. Seems to be a really nice addition. This is a guy that's a fifth-year guy now, so he's going to add to that experience with Montre Miller and company. Also, Keyshawn Cobb. We got some guys with a little bit of experience to mix in with the younger guys like Aubrey Burks and Jacoby Spells. Also, the Andrew Wilson Lamps of the world. So, really exciting pickup. It's not going to move the needle a whole bunch. It's not a huge wide receiver or bandit selection that's going to get the fan base excited. But I do think that this is going to be a signing that pays dividends in the 2023-2024 season.
Awesome. Thank you for that quick rundown. And I'm sure Paul or I1 will be doing video about this guy at some point to do a complete overview, breakdown, whatever, film review, something. One of us, if not both of us, will eventually have some content up about this guy in more detail. But this news just broke earlier, just a few minutes ago.
It's in the hour, yeah.
Yeah, and I, obviously didn't have time to sit and do a full breakdown. I was too busy going to Dairy Queen to get ice cream. But anyway, back to their countdown. Big 12 coaches ranked by On3. Number 1 was Chris Kleiman from Kansas State. 2, Sonny Dykes, TCU. Now we're at number 3, Lance Leipold, or Leopold, I don't know how you pronounce it, from Kansas. probably, I mean, you consider the guy won six Division III national titles. Brought Buffalo back to winning a football, which is not easy to do in the MAC, and now turned Kansas around, who was the dumpster of college football. So, what do you think? Too high, too low? About right.
Too high. I think there are some guys that are a little more accomplished than that. But I mean, certainly winning at Kansas is probably the hardest thing to do in all Power Five. Winning at Buffalo over the years has proven not to be the easiest thing to do. They've had a couple good teams throughout the years, don't get me wrong. But, I mean, I think probably the biggest claim to fame for Buffalo might have been Mack, the defensive end. Most people would know that about them. Other than that, not much.
I like this question. I'm going to answer this. Dairy Queen approaches you for a Couz Blizzard. What's in it? That might be in my next short video. Y'all know I did the video about the nabs, right? The nabs and cracker debate, which actually that sucker blew up on TikTok and Facebook and stuff. I actually got really good responses from that. It was really fun too, by the way.
Is that short for Nabisco? Is that why they call it
I think
nabs?
so, yeah. Did you see it, the one I did?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I had not heard of nabs. And I'm from
not?
West Virginia. No, yeah. I'm from West Virginia, but I'm from a different part of West Virginia than you. You know, I'm from some West Virginians might take this offensive, but I'm from deeper in the rural country, so I don't know that. I don't know if that's even ever been. I've never heard of that. It's just, and there may be people that know about it. I just had, for some reason, didn't hear it growing up.
Big Dan T says it's nabs. He learned that from his grandpa.
Huh.
So, and by the way, guys, Big Dan T's a channel member. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you, Paul.
I'm sorry, I was talking out loud about nabs still.
Big Dan T is a channel member. I'm getting ready to, in order to celebrate my 5,000 sub mark, I'm getting ready to do a giveaway. I have some drink koozies coming in that should be here sometime this week. I will be giving away to all of my channel members, and am going to figure out some kind of way to do a giveaway for some of my subscribers. I can't give away 5,000 koozies, but I am going to do some kind of raffle or something, contest, something for my subscribers so that they can be a part of this as well, because after all, it's 5,000 subscribers that got me there, but all channel members will get one for sure. That includes Big Dan T. All right, now back to the countdown here. Number 4 on the coach list for the Big 12, Mike Gundy.
Should have been higher.
I kind of thought he would be higher too. But anyway, we all kind of know Mike Gundy's career path. Number 5, Gus Malzahn from UCF.
He's got a national championship.
He played for a national championship, but he hasn't done much since. A couple of 9-win seasons, but you know what? I think playing for a national championship automatically gets you pretty high on this list, because there's only a couple that have done it, right?
Right.
Number 6, Kalani Sitake from BYU.
He was mediocre for a long time there. I mean, honestly, they've had a couple good years though. He very similar like to what Dana was, I think, for us. He probably isn't as good as he should have been, but he's not as bad as a lot of other coaches in the conference. Obviously, he's had some really good years with them. Last year was a good year for them. A couple years back with Zach Robinson, was that his last name? The kid that was in the New York Jets. Anyway,
Zach.
That was
I'm drawing a blank, but anyway,
that was a really good year for them. But man, I mean, I remember when we played them and beat them. They had won 5 games that year. He was there. I mean, he's got to be outside of Gundy. He might be the longest tenured coach in the Big 12 now.
He's close.
He's got to be. He's been there for at least close to 10 years.
Yeah. I want to address his comment by Big Dan T real quick. The Big Dan T, thank you for the 1999 super chat, my brother. He says, I'm sorry, Paul, but there is no more deeper country than Monroe County. LOL. Come on down. I'll show you.
Hey, look, man, I'm from Dingus, West Virginia, Mingo County, down by Logan. I'm not saying that it's not deeper, or I'm not saying it is, because I honestly don't know. I just know that growing up where I lived, we were an hour and 45 minutes away from the closest gas station or Walmart or anything like that. So, like, if you got bit by a copperhead or something like that, you were in bad shape. They tried to put a clinic in, but you couldn't.
Yeah.
There's a tunnel there that's a mile long, that's kind of popular. A lot of people might know about, that it's a one-way tunnel with no lights that seems to get a lot of notoriety about where I'm from, but that's about it.
I got you. But anyway, thank you for the super chat, Big Dan T. Obviously, if you guys want to send this chat in a certain direction or comment on a certain thing or whatever, that'll get your comment highlighted, and I'll be more likely to see it. Also, I never did answer Cole's question about the blizzard, did I?
You said you're going to do a short about it.
I might, but then we got sidetracked on the nabs conversation. But the blizzard, if I had to pick a blizzard, it would definitely have coconut in it, Cole, to answer your question from earlier. And definitely have chocolate in it. It'd be chocolate ice cream. I'll tell you what, if you take Twix candy bar, coconut, chocolate chips, and chocolate ice cream and blended it all together, that'd probably be my blizzard.
Wow.
That's pretty good. That's actually something that he's got me dwelling on that now. I'm getting I'll have to go back to Dairy Queen. All right, get me another blizzard. All right. Number 7 on this list. We ain't got the Neil Brown yet for some reason. Number 7 on this list is Matt Campbell from Iowa State. Thoughts?
I think Matt Campbell's a guy he's obviously probably the most consistent coach, one of the most consistent coaches in the league. I think the thing with Campbell is he's never won more than 9 games. And I think that's a reason a lot of people look down on, because there's, the Brock Purdy squad they had a year or two back was, a lot of people feel like a playoff contender, and they really underachieved. And that was supposed to be, so I think a lot of people wanted to see what he would do at Nebraska with some more resources, because what he's done at Iowa State is a feat. Outside of Kansas in Power 5, this would have been the hardest revival. So that is not to be understated. But he's also, now that he's built that thing up, I mean, Iowa State the expectations there are no different than what they are in Morgantown now. So I think, and that's insane to even think, but historically, no. But here recently, yeah. So to think that he got it to that point is pretty impressive.
Yeah. Cole, to answer your question, and I think I saw Big Dan T comment on as well. How can you rank a coach that hasn't played a Big 12 game yet? They actually rank them based on their entire career, not just on what they've done in the Big 12. So hopefully that answered the question. Because I thought the same thing at first. And then when I actually read the article and realized it was based on their whole career, their whole body of work, which I'm going to talk about more in a minute when I get to one of the people on the list, because their body of work is very, very slim, yet they weren't at the bottom of the list, which I think is a little weird. But anyway, let's keep going. Number 8, Dave Aranda from Baylor. Personally, I think that's probably about right. I mean, he did have one really good season in 2021 where they won the Big 12 and won the Sugar Bowl, I think it was, over Ole Miss. But then, but he's had 2 losing seasons, it's in between 2 losing seasons where he had 2 wins and 6 wins. So he hasn't shown consistency yet.
Right. He won. You can make the argument he won with somebody else's players.
Matt Rule's
players. I couldn't get Matt Rule's name in my head.
No worries.
You could argue more with Matt Rule's players than with that Sugar Bowl. So, he hasn't had enough time to have only his players. So we'll see. we'll see what Baylor looks like here in the next year or two, because he's not on the hot seat, so he should be there for a while.
Yeah. Number 9 is Joey McGuire. The guy's coached one season of college football.
Yeah.
Now, he did go 8-5, and he just signed a top 25 recruiting class.
Uh-huh.
And he beat Oklahoma and Texas in the same season for the first time in Texas Tech history.
Right.
So the guy's doing a good job, but he's only coached for 1 year. So
right.
I'm not sure I'd put him quite that high, but
I don't think you can. You gotta stick to your rules. What is the poll? Is it based on what you've done over a career, or is it based off potential? Based off potential, he maybe even be a spot or two higher. So you can't flip it up for each candidate. You know what I mean? That's kind of what it feels like this is done a little bit, because there's no way McGuire can be at 9 if it's based off his career. It's been one season.
Right. Next up, Steve Sarkisian, Texas, number 10. Nobody has done less with more. And I didn't realize this, but Steve Sarkisian has never won more than 9 games in a season in his career.
Yeah.
That includes Washington, USC, and now Texas.
Yeah, he's had really cushy jobs. All top 15 jobs. That's all he's ever had.
He recruits like a madman. I mean, he's getting top 5 recruiting classes year in, year out. And he's a quarterback guru, but yet he's not been able to win as a head coach yet. At least not
right.
Not at now. If he was the coach at West Virginia, winning 8-9 games a year, he'd probably be okay. But if you're at Texas and USC, it's not going, and even Washington to a degree, it's not going to work.
There's a lot of people who still believe in him there.
Yeah, but he could turn around this year. We'll see. But if not, I got a feeling he won't be around long. Number 11 is Brent Venables. Now, this one intrigues me. Now, look, I think Brent Venables is going to be I think he's going to be a really good football coach, head football coach. I do. But he's coached one season in his life as a head coach. How can you put him at number 11 on the list?
Yeah.
Ahead of guys you'll see in a minute that have coached in bowl games and won bowl games and had winning seasons as coaches at the Power 5, or at least, at the Power 5 level. What do you think, Paul?
I'm with you 100%. I mean, think about what he did with that Oklahoma team last year. He had more talent than – he certainly had more talent than West Virginia, even if they were depleted. I mean, you give us Dylan Gabriel last year with what we had, I think we would have won a few more games than we did, and I think they underperformed with, in my opinion, Dylan Gabriel's a lot better than people realize or give him credit for. But, I think that team should have won more games last year, even though they were a bit depleted. But one season is one season. It's the same thing with Joey McGuire.
Yeah.
Even
worse because he had a losing record. Brent had a losing record.
Right.
In his one season.
Yeah, he did the thing that no Oklahoma coach has done, and that's lose to West Virginia since they've been to the Big 12.
Yep. And he should not be ahead of this guy, Dana Holgorsen. Now,
wow.
I'm not going to
say horrible ranking.
Yeah, I'm going to do my own, I believe, because this has kind of got me a little bit, I don't want to say tore up, but fired up, I guess would be the best way to put it. Look, Dana Holgorsen is not my favorite guy in the world, okay, because of the way he left West Virginia. But to say this guy is the 12th best coach in the Big 12 to me is crazy. He's coached 12 years of Power 5, 12 years of FBS football, 8 of those in the Power 5.
Right.
He's only had 3 losing seasons.
Right.
He's had at least two 10-win double-digit win seasons. He won 10 one year at West Virginia, and then he won 12 2 years ago at Houston. So,
and a BCS win.
And BCS bowl win. That's right. Actually, no, he's got 3 10-win seasons, because I forgot about the Big East year when we beat Clemson. Yeah. That was a 10-win season.
70-33.
Has three double-digit win seasons, only 3 losing seasons, and every other year he's won at least 7 games.
Yeah.
And they got him 12th on the list. I don't get it.
He's 76-48. The one thing the thing about him that I had disliked the most is his bowl record is bad. It's 4-6. But outside of that, I mean, there's just no way you can say that Joey McGuire's done more than Dana Holgorsen. He beat a Dabo Swinney, Taj Boyd, Sammy Watkins led squad in the Orange Bowl with a West Virginia squad that was full of 3-star guys. Not all 4 3-star guys, but 70-33 at that.
Right. Big Dan T, another $9.99 super chat. Thank you, brother. He says, I like the discussion, but the problem with any list like this is you can argue for or against anyone at 1 or 12, 14. To hell with UT and OU. Horns down. Horns down, man. These cameras are tricky. I never know where to put my hands. And then he had another one, a $4.99 super chat. Thank you, man. You're too kind. You're too kind. It says, I think WVU could have won 9 games this last 3 years, and Neil would still be the same rank. Maybe. That's, you never know, man. But with the way this list is put together, I'm starting to think you might be right.
Shoddy at best, huh?
13, Scott Satterfield, Cincinnati.
Right. And you think about Satterfield, his record is close to Dana's. He's won 76 games. I don't know what his bowl record is, but he had a lot of that's padded by what he did at Appalachian State.
Right.
So because he really underachieved at Louisville, who, in my opinion, is when you get the right program and pieces going, Louisville is a place you can win at. It's been proven since Dave Ragone was there in the late 90s. So he underachieved at Louisville. Don't know how the hell he got the Cincinnati job. I still don't know how he got that job. You want to talk about a step down? How about going from Luke Fickell, the hottest coach not named Deion Sanders in the nation, to Scott Satterfield, a walking 6-6? Tell me how he's better than Neil Brown. How he's been better than Neil Brown. I mean, it's a lot of the same, really, but I mean, he hadn't been better. He may not have been worse, but he ain't been better either.
Yeah, it's this one's puzzling. Now, I mean, he's probably about where he needs to be. He's near the bottom, but I mean, back to the hire. That AD at Cincinnati is going. If they don't win, he's going to have a lot of explaining to do.
Yeah. He was. It says right here he was 25-24, 15-18 in the ACC at Louisville. He was 51-24 and 38-10 at Appalachian State. So that's the majority of why his record looks halfway decent. And I'm sure the 4-1 in bowl games are probably mostly Appalachian State as well.
Yeah. He had two out of 4 seasons at Louisville were losing seasons.
So,
and the 2 winning
fall
seasons
into that Cincinnati job.
Yeah.
Wow.
And there's one coach remaining, and I'll give you one guess who it is. Dead last.
Rich Rodriguez.
Dead last. Neil Brown.
Yeah.
Now, I'm not saying he should be at the top of the list. He should definitely be near the bottom of the list. But the guy has at least won. He's won a bowl game. He had 3 fantastic years at Troy where he won 10 games. If you want, look, that's what, like you said earlier, this is an inconsistent list because they're looking at the overall career of some guys, and others are only looking at what they've done in the Big 12. It's not consistent.
Right.
So I'm gonna, this has got me wanting to put together my own list, and I'm gonna tear this one apart. But anyway, maybe I may end up being closer than I think once I sit down and put my brain to it. But yeah, Neil Brown's last. He has a losing record at West Virginia, but he had a fantastic career at Troy, 3 10-win seasons. And he has been to 2 bowl games at West Virginia, 2 6-win seasons. Not good.
It's not good, but it's not. I don't think as bad as A lot of people like to make it seem. I mean, it's been horrible. One of my kids. It's been the darkest 4 years
Yeah.
of our. I mean, we've seen in a long time. I
Since
just
you and
think
I have been alive.
since we've been alive, and that's the thing. I think that's what hurts the most is we just haven't seen a stretch like this. So, and I think a lot of the country sees it the same way. You're not used to seeing that. That's like that. That's similar to what's a team that is similar to us, like a Wisconsin, right? I think we could compare to a Wisconsin, like in like the way the entire country looks at that brand.
Yeah.
Can you imagine if Wisconsin fell off and wasn't ranked or even like in the public eye for the next 4 years? It would be similar. I'm not saying we're the same exactly. Similar to that brand doing that,
Right.
so or like an Oklahoma State, we're in that range. So those programs are expected to win 7, 8 to 10 games, every 4 year turnover. You're expecting a 10 game winning season somewhere. And like TCU, all you hope is you've got a shot to make it. We're not Ohio State. We don't think we can compete every single year, unless somebody just opens up the bank and starts pouring that NIL funds our way,
Right.
which would be great. If I was rich, that would happen.
Oh yeah. Yeah. You and I have had that discussion multiple times.
Well, I say it all the
Uh,
time. If I was rich, if I had $500 million, I would give 250 million of it to West Virginia. I would.
Hey, if you and I were wealthy, we'd make Country Roads Trust look like
We would.
dirt, wouldn't we?
We'd be like Mr. Beast. We would just walk on campus and get all the athletes together and just have them pull out a rifle and hand one of them $1 million in a bag or something and film it.
Yeah.
Just throw it on the internet and get 1 million views.
Jeremy Croy, who's also a channel member, thank you for your membership, Jeremy. He says the rankings factored in number of drop passes and false starts. LOL.
Oh, well, that's why Neil Brown was last. Oh, okay.
Yeah,
I didn't know that.
question.
Goofballs.
Oh man, that's funny. Cole D says, one of the few, but my household still has faith in Neil. Wife walked up to him at the Kansas game and told him that, not discounting anyone else's pain. I get it, man. No, it's fair. I mean, I'm not like I said earlier. I did a members only live stream, and the guys that were on there, I told them, I like Neil Brown. I hope he succeeds, man. I hope he goes out and wins 8, 9, 10 games this year, turns this program around, and goes on he starts winning 9, 10 games a year or more. Competing for Big 12 championships and proves everybody wrong. I hope that's
There's
what
precedent
happens.
for it. There's precedent for it.
But
One was at West Virginia University before in Bobby Bowden, right?
Yeah.
And the other one being Frank Beamer. Unfortunately, the times aren't like those times anymore. That's the one big thing. Yeah, but it's the likability factor for me with Neil, and that's what I don't understand. Like, people just don't like him. Some people. I think it's a lot of this that he does, and there's never any action that's backed it up until now. And a lot of people are tired of just hearing him. You can only take so much accountability before even that starts getting old, right?
Right.
He's been great at that. He'll take accountability for a lot of stuff, but it's just like when you're a kid and you get in trouble all the time. You can admit you were wrong and that you'll change only so many times.
Yeah.
But I don't get the rooting against him like people do.
No. And I don't know if people are deep down rooting against him as much as they're just. I think they just deep down feel that he's not going to get it done. And
right. Yeah.
But I hope he proves us wrong. But if he doesn't, I'll be right on that bandwagon. Which actually I have been. I just now that when they decided to
fell off last year.
Yeah, when they decided to bring him back, I decided to get off the Fire Neil Brown train.
Yeah.
And support him because that's what's best for the program. And
I probably won't have anything to say about it until after week 4, at least until week 4.
Yeah.
Again.
I don't know if we lose the
hopefully.
Pit. If we lose the Pit, I might. If we lose to Duquesne, I definitely will. All right. It says, sorry, guys. Kindness doesn't win games. I totally agree with that, Kenny. It don't.
Yeah, not saying it wins games. I'm just saying as far as like, that's why I think a lot of people have trouble rooting against Neil is because of that, how nice the guy is.
He checks every box except winning.
Yeah.
Big Dan T says, this year we are getting back to WU football. When we went to the pistol and away from running the ball, Haven't been the old gold and blue. Excited to get back to hard-hitting Mountaineer football.
Yeah.
Couldn't agree more, man.
I like what they're talking about, with the dual formations of the running backs.
Yeah. Silas says he's not sure if he's so nice, and he may not be behind the scenes. I don't know. All we can go by is what we see. Excited for a new look offense. I'll root for the ears every year, whoever coaches. Same here, brother. Hank, thanks for hopping on, man. He's an OU fan. He says, I just question if he has a path he's trying to go down for success.
Can you explain that a little bit?
Yeah, I would like to elaborate. I was going to say the same thing.
Sorry, Couz. It's your show.
No. You said the same thing I was going to basically say. Curtis says, I didn't like what he said before the Pitt game with the other head coach. Yeah, that was a little bit weird. I ain't going to lie.
What did he say? What is he talking about?
When him and Pat Narduzzi shook hands before the backyard brawl, they got caught on camera saying all this. I'm paraphrasing. All this for just one game. Talking about all the hoopla and everything.
Oh, I see what you're saying, but that sounds to me like just making small talk.
I think that's what he was trying to do. But our fan base blew it out of proportion, to be honest.
Yeah, well, that was the bad thing to get caught on camera. If he won 10 games last year, nobody would.
Because it's out of context. You know, I mean.
Yeah.
Like if he was winning 19 games a year, nobody would probably care. They'd probably be like, yeah, it is a lot, ain't it? Hank says he seems like he's kind of just wandering. Okay, I see what you're saying now. Yeah, at times he does, but I think here's what I think about Neil Brown. He did really well at Troy. He won 10 games a year, got him to where he's at now. And I think he has been hell-bent on doing the exact same thing he did at Troy ever since he's been at West Virginia. And really until now, or you could say he started a little bit last year. Before he started trying to change anything. Before he, you know what I'm saying? He's been really stubborn a little bit, I think, reluctant to change because what he had done before worked. And I get that. He's confident in his ability and his staff's ability. I don't fault him for that. But I think he just waited a little bit too long to realize that, you know what I did there is not going to work at the Power 5 level.
Right.
See, Matthew, yeah, we did see that. We actually discussed it briefly earlier in the show, but yeah, we did get a really good defensive back from Minnesota. Jeremy Croy, again, do you think all the outreach to former players is Neil or the AD? I like that they're doing it. I think it's both. What do you think, Paul?
I think it's Red Baker. I mean, I don't think Neil has a problem with it. It's not something he would really rather be doing. I think he's ultra, super, hyper vigilant and focused on the football side of it, and that's just a distraction to him. You're talking about a guy, Neil Brown, who has the same thing for lunch every day and has had the same thing for lunch every day so that he doesn't have to think about that. Like he literally did that just so that he wouldn't have to waste the thought in his mind of choosing a different lunch each and every day. And I've heard him say that a couple different times. So I think reaching out, it's just how he is. He's extremely obsessive over it. It hasn't worked out, but that doesn't change the fact that he's like that. Rem Baker is, I would say in another life, Rem Baker would be a great politician. He's a very big people person. He's great on the mic. And he's, Pat McAfee said they had hand-delivered letters. I'm sure Rem Baker was behind that, not Neil Brown. So I'm thinking probably Pac-Man must have brought him in from Ren or something. But Rem Baker to me has injected lifeblood into this program, and whether or not Neil Brown succeeds or fails, I have a lot of faith that Rem Baker is going to figure it out.
I agree. So far,
as long as we keep him.
Yeah, there again, I think he's checked every box to this point. He won the press conference. He's made the right moves. I mean, I think he had something to do with that Larry Harrison thing that happened. I really do. Maybe he didn't, but I really think he did. we're never going to know for sure. But I mean, I think he even said in an interview that he lets the head coaches make those decisions and he signs off on them. So I mean, he signed off on it, I guess you could say, at least.
Right.
So maybe it was a Hugs decision. I don't know. But anyway, it just seemed ironic that it happened not long after he got there. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And after he started sitting courtside at games. But yeah, I think Ren Baker's going to really breathe some life into the program.
Yeah, I agree. Well, and if you guys get a chance to check our basketball channel, Hoops from the Hills Out, Couz and I have that together. We've had Chase Harler on, some other people, and we've had this conversation with them about the Harrison situation, and not much else has come of it, but what we just kind of deduced for you just right here. So, I mean, we've talked to people that would know. I feel like,
yeah. Well, and you look at too. Another thing I like about Ren, outside of the fundraising piece, his social media presence is really good. Like you never saw Shane Lyons wasn't on social media. Ren Baker's on social media all the time, cracking jokes, retweeting players. I mean, heck, he tweeted
the Jesus thing was hilarious.
Yeah, the Jesus
the
thing,
Nazareth.
That was funny.
Yeah.
He tweeted to Jose, saying, "Man, now you got my inbox full of people about black uniforms, man. Come on."
Yeah.
I mean, he retweeted condolences to Golden Blue Dude, man. I mean, just he's checking every box right now. The hire he made for women's basketball, I think, was a home run. Obviously, the results will tell us for sure, but so far he's doing a really good job. And Big Dan T, I think, agrees with us. He says, "I honestly think he was talking about Neil being held back by some of the prior administration. I believe that has come out several ways now. I think Baker will let him do what he wants, and we will see." I think there was, to a degree, he was being held back, but at the same time, I also think I don't know. I think it goes both ways. I think there's there's blame to go around, to be honest.
Big Dan T, you were still going?
No.
When you say that, Big Dan T, what do you mean by held back? Do you mean like he was so worried about things because of the tumultuous nature of the program with Shane Lyons behind the scenes, and that was affecting his decision making on the field? Because he's had some really bad calls with clock management, certain things in game, with not going for it on 4th and 1 with CJ's a big one people are going to look at, for even if he has a good career at West Virginia. And I mean, obviously, a toxic thing with your AD could for sure hurt you in your day to day and on the field. But the sum of it has to be Neil as well, right? I mean, he has to take accountability for some of it. But I would just like to know what you meant by what you said there. If you could clarify that just a little bit. How do you think that was happening?
Cole D says, Jose Perez said something on his Twitter feed a few years back, basically that the coaches are literally giving players the right answers to the test. It's up to them to use them. That's fair.
A few years back? Dang.
That's a good memory.
Yeah.
And I think that's right, Cole, but I do think there are times coaches give the players the wrong answers. If you put the guy in the wrong position and he's not going to excel in, that's the coach's fault. I listened to one of the podcasts today. Like I told Paul, I was in the car for like 4.5 hours today, so I did a lot of driving. And I listened to several podcasts. I listened to the Country Roads podcast today, Country Roads Trust podcast, and they were interviewing one of the defensive guys. I'm trying to think which one it was. Anyway, they asked him about the defense, and he said that last year that Coach Leslie has taken out a lot of the things that made them think too much.
Right.
Basically, I'm paraphrasing it, but that's essentially what he said. There again, so that goes back. Did they put their guys in positions last year where they wouldn't succeed? That's on the coach. But in general, Cole, I agree with you. and most of the time, the coach doesn't know what they're doing. The players just don't execute it.
Yeah.
It goes both ways.
One thing that worries me about that, Couz, is so I'm 100% sure I heard him say they needed to simplify the scheme during the season last year. And I would question why they didn't take stuff out. Like after the Kansas game, for instance, it was very obvious. That's one of the worst in-game performances I've ever seen from a defense, as far as being aligned and all that. Like they were in the wrong gaps. It was really horrible performance. Lee Koba was only was his second game in or whatever it was, and he was way above. It was way above his head. So we heard him say after that he was going to simplify everything and all that, and the defense did improve late in the year. So, but it seemed like it took longer than it should have for that to happen. Now, some of that could have been a talent disparity as well. They missed on some people. That happened too. But I just question, sometimes I wonder, did they make it simple fast enough, or was he just saying that was a coach speak? I just have trouble with it.
Yeah, I'm with you. And he did say that in the year. I think it was later in the season. They played better. The defense played a lot better the last 3 or 4 games of the year, and I think that's why, because they changed the scheme a little bit and made it simpler.
Yeah. I'd like to have somebody spell that out for us exactly what that is, though. I know they can't yet because of the season and everything.
Right.
But what were they doing exactly? Were they stunning up front with the defensive line and calling exotic blitzes and exotic calls in the secondary? And what have they done down to? Excuse me. I'm just curious to know what that is, what that looks like.
Hank says,
I guess
it's now truly on Brown, because when the people above aren't saying no, it's time. Yep. Oops. Excited about Kellogg. Seriously excited. I am too, Big Dante. Kellogg, for those of you who don't know, is the new women's coach at West Virginia. Mark Kellogg from Stephen F. Austin. The 6th winningest active coach in women's basketball.
That's pretty wild.
Mountain Air with Kenny says, at least with Wren, there will be no excuse of money anymore, period. Shouldn't be. Eric Stevenson said something. What's that?
That's why I asked anybody cry, because I cried when Kellogg's press conference happened.
Oh, I didn't cry, but it was impressive.
I did. I teared up whenever his family was crying and stuff, like they finally made it. He was at the lower level for a long time,
Yeah.
Lower level of power Division I.
Yeah.
So
Hank says, nothing would make me happier than West Virginia assuming ownership of this conference in 24 and beyond. Thank you, Hank. Appreciate the love, man.
Thanks.
And he made another comment down here, too, that I appreciated. He says, I judge a team by the fan base, and y'all are top-notch. Thank you, brother.
Appreciate that.
Big Dan T says, I'm not saying Neil has not made mistakes. Just ask Couz. He has sat beside me at games. LOL. I'm just saying that Lions, in my mind, did not go the extra mile to give them support. Look at Baker now. Oh, I agree. I totally agree with you.
Okay.
I've heard, I don't know, I think I heard that, well, and I think we've even talked about it, and I think it's pretty obvious, back to what we were talking about earlier with the player outreach. I think it's obvious who the problem was there. I think Shane Lyons was the problem. I'll be honest with you. Was he all the problem? I don't know. It makes no sense to me.
Because he wasn't always the problem.
I don't know. Maybe it wasn't all him, but it's obvious now that it's changed.
No, I said it wasn't always that way. There was a time when he was doing a good job for West Virginia early, but when he first came over from Alabama, but I just don't know when it fell off the rails and why. I don't know if we'll ever know.
Yeah. Big Dan T says it just seems like Lions did not push to make things better, like it was not his job.
Right.
Well, there was a lot of rumblings, and it was truly rumors. I don't have any proof or anything to prove this or back it up. But there were rumblings that Shane Lyons had gotten to a point in his career where he was basically delegating everything to somebody else. And he was spending most of his time serving on all these NCAA committees and stuff, which It's part of it. I get it.
That's his background.
Yeah.
Compliance,
I think,
right?
but I think more or less, I think the main reason was just because he was refusing to fully embrace NIL, and he was unwilling to. He wanted to completely distance the athletic department from NIL at all costs, even though legally they didn't have to. But he was so afraid of doing something wrong that he wouldn't.
What come?
Right. Yeah, because he's part of that infractions committee or whatever, and he was afraid of breaking a rule. You know, every other school in the country don't care to come close to breaking a rule or even break them in some cases. But I think he was just way too overly cautious, I guess would be the best way to put it. And it was hurting us in the NIL space. And I also think he probably wasn't doing a good enough job raising money for the Mountaineer Athletic Club as well.
Well, you look and see just what. Okay, look at the first round of guys in the portal that Hugs and then guys picked up. Talking about Polycat, Demond Kerrigan, guys like that, right?
Yeah.
Then you move up a year later, it gets a little bit better. Once you add in Jose Perez, Eric Stevenson, and those guys, but still not much better. And now we have Brim Baker, and it's exploded, right? I mean, we're literally the number one school in the country for transfer portal on some sites, and potentially everywhere if we get who we think we're going to possibly get. But anyway, so just the freedom that all that has come with all that, it has to be for both sports, you would think.
Right. Jeremy says it. Yeah, I think we blitz less. I think he was talking about when the defense got better late in the year. Big Dan T again says, I know I have said it before, but I do think Gordon Gee is a lot of the problem. Maybe he has changed now with Baker. I have no idea. And it's very possible, Big Dan T. I don't know, man.
I've heard that too.
Yeah, I just don't. And I think there's a lot of, and there again, this is all rumors, but I think there's a lot of, I don't know what the right word is, but
pushback,
duress, disagreements, whatever, at the highest levels of West Virginia, whether it be boosters, whatever, the board, I don't know. Somebody, I think there's just a lot of, and I think, maybe bringing Wren in will help some of that when it comes to athletics. I don't know. Maybe he can help get everybody on the same page.
I mean, you get one voice that everything's coming from, and then because really, Gee, all he should be doing is either accepting or denying something. At least that's as far as the athletic department goes, outside of realignment or something. But it all should come from Wren, and it should either be a yes or no thing. There really shouldn't be much else to it.
Right.
That's probably not how it is.
Probably not. Hank says, I don't know the answer to this, but does it seem like Brown staff is meshing and complementary? I don't know, man. It's hard to get it because it keeps changing every year. I mean, we thought it was. Well, then they bring Graham, but we still weren't good. So they bring Graham Harrell in, still weren't good. Now he's gone.
Yeah.
We find out I don't think he and Neil Brown were on the same page because Neil basically cut off his play calling duties the last 3 or 4 games of the year.
Yep.
I do think he now has, I think him promoting Chad Scott, he and Chad Scott have been coaching together now for a long time. So they're going to be on the same page. He and Jordan Leslie have been coaching together he pretty much has his staff that he wants, I think, now. He handpicked, he had worked with Bilal Marshall before he brought him back to be receivers coach. Bilal had worked there as a GA. So they're going to be on the same page. He handpicked Blaine Stewart for that job. So at least I think he did. So they should be on the same page. Bringing back Rasheed Marshall is another one, legendary quarterback, to be on the staff. I think the moves he's made this offseason from a coaching perspective were the right moves. Now, obviously, we will see. I even heard Neil make a comment in his press conference, and it kind of – I haven't heard anybody else talk about this, but he made a comment that the receivers are catching the ball better.
Yeah.
Did you hear that?
I did. Yeah, he said that his exact words were that Bilal Marshall is the best he's ever seen at this stage of his career. So that's high praise. Those are his exact words verbatim. Juan Marshall is the best receivers coach he's ever seen at this stage of his career. Now, there's a caveat at the end of that it sounds like, that's like when we say West Virginia is the winningest program of all time that's never won a national championship, right?
Yeah.
Blau Marshall is the best wide receiver coach I've ever seen at this stage of his career. But it's still high praise, and I do agree with you on one thing real quick. The West Virginia influx was much needed. I think Rashid is going to do wonders in his job, and obviously Wayne Stewart. There's a lot of people pulling for him to succeed, obviously, for obvious reasons.
Yep. Cole says Wren might be the best AD we've had in my entire life. I hated Passed Along. Didn't think he kept up with BCS era. I've told you how I felt about Luck, and Lions might be the worst. LOL.
Yeah, Luck was too ambitious for us.
He did get us into the Big 12, but I'm starting to wonder now sometimes if that was even the right move.
I don't know if ambitious is the right word. I mean scheduling wise.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
That scheduling that he did has bit us in the rear end, dude.
It's killed us. It's kept us out of a bowl game for sure, at least twice.
There's no reason we should be playing 2 Power 5 teams out of conference. Nobody else is doing it. Staff has had an issue with stability. But I think it's because we haven't been good, and they have to make changes to keep the fan base, try to keep the fan base happy.
Right.
It's cool. Did you hear me, or was I muted?
Something happened to the audio there.
All right. It says
I can hear you now.
Right. Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
It says if Pac-Man was right, Hugs is probably lighting cigars.
Very true.
My audio keeps messing up on me. I'm having issues with this stupid thing. Anyway, Big Dan T again, guys. If you wonder why Big Dan T's he's a channel member. If you're a channel member, you get first dibs on comments. That means and a channel member is somebody who it's different from a subscriber. Says I know Paul disagrees, but I can't help but think how good Prather could be with great coaching, but he's not here, so I think Carter is going to be a good fit. Agree.
It's not that I disagree with you, Big NT. I just think that once I saw what Prather was, he was a possession receiver. I felt, he wasn't what he's very much like Devin Carter in size and ability. So we need another guy. We need another Winston Wright kind of player or somebody like that. And but I truly, obviously, I would rather have Prather than what we have, and he was only a sophomore, so he could have grew into something more. I don't want it to seem like that. I don't think Prather was a good player. I just think that to me, he wasn't as good as I thought he was going to be. That's what it was.
Hank says, I still get pissed thinking about the OUW Fiesta Bowl, just saying. Hey, that was a great night in Mountaineer history, man. Leave no doubt. Leave no doubt.
28.
Tonight. They shouldn't play the old gold and blue. Not this night.
We were pissed.
Oh, yeah.
And you guys had one of your best Oklahoma teams ever that night. I don't know how motivated they were, but man, we lost to Pitt in a game we never should have lost. Ohio State got to go play LSU in our place, and I really think we could have beat anybody, especially the way we played that night.
Yeah, Cole D made a comment. I think he's referring to the basketball team. He says, you have a lottery pick. Tell you what coaches in the NBA are looking for. it goes further, I think. Talking about DeMar Johnson, and I think you're dead on it, man. I think that DeMar Johnson hire is going to end up being a huge help to us in basketball.
Yeah. Well, he was a 6th overall pick.
Yeah.
You know. Well.
Big Dan T with the $4.99 super chat. Thank you, Dan. He says, I understand, Paul. Here's the big question. Who do y'all think gets the job, 8 or 6? Talking about quarterback.
Yeah, I personally think 8's going to get the job. I think whoever does, I'm going to ride with. I'm going to try not to be negative about. But I do think Nico has the most upside. And looking at it that way, I think he's got the better arm too. Now, the way the offense is trending, I do think Garrett could be more explosive. But if we're going to be doing an RPO style, I worry about Garrett's overall health. I know Couz knows that's my biggest worry about Garrett. His intermediate to short game is not the best. He throws the best deep ball on the team for sure. But I do worry about his health in a running quarterback scenario where they're running these RPOs, and the RPOs he would do are not the same as what Nico would do. Nico would probably be RPO to pass first, run second. It's going to be the opposite for Garrett. So I worry about Garrett's health because he could be getting 8 to 9 touches a game running, outside the running backs, and that's a lot for his little body.
Yeah, I lean towards Nico. I'll answer this like I answered somebody. My gut tells me Nico wins the job, but my heart wants Garrett to win the job. There's something about that guy. I love that guy, man. I love the way he plays. I love his passion. I love his energy. He's got moxie, He's loyal. He's hung around when he didn't have to. There's a part of me that wants to see Garrett Green win that job and go ball out, man. Now, obviously, if he don't and Nico wins the job, then I'm fine with that. I just want the best guy to win the job. But
Me too.
At the end of the day, I think Nico's has a higher ceiling than Garrett does as far as his ability, as far as from a pure quarterback standpoint. As far as making reads, making the right decisions, because I think they're both pretty similar in their physical skill set with throwing the football. But I think Nico is probably more. I think Nico is probably more prepared to be a college quarterback already than Garrett may be, even though Garrett's older than him. If that makes sense. I think Nico just has the it factor, man. I think he just got, as far as reading defenses, he's basically, and I think even heard Neil say this, he was born to play quarterback. I mean, that's so much like what he was destined to do. Whereas I think Garrett Green is more of just a great athlete who happens to have a really good arm, if that makes sense. I don't know, but I love Garrett, man. And whoever wins the job, I'm fine with it. I just hope it's the best guy, because there are rumors floating around out there that it might go to the guy that it's already been promised to somebody. I don't know if that's true, but I hope it's not. But everybody, all the reporters and everybody that you talk to that has seen practice will tell you they've been getting equal reps. So I'm not sure if I buy that rumor or not, to be honest. But
if it had been promised to somebody, I think that would be a big reason for them to get equal reps, is so that they both end up staying. But I don't want to believe that that's happened, because that would be, in my opinion, unfair to either or. If you already pick somebody, you tell whoever it is that didn't get selected, if there's not going to be a competition, So to me, if that ever comes out that happened, that's going to say a whole lot about Coach Brown's character to me.
Yeah, agreed. One reason I have a tendency not to believe it, even though I have heard it from a couple different people.
I have too. I think it's just caught fire as a rumor.
Yeah, Hank says 6 beat OU last year, right? And he's salty. Yeah, it was Garrett Green that beat you guys, man. Played a great game.
He's got elite speed. He's got Kyler Murray speed.
Jeremy, this is what I think right here. He says he thinks they will play both quarterbacks in most games. I think they're going to figure out a way to get both these quarterbacks on the field. I don't know if it's a 2-quarterback system. Maybe they put Garrett in the slot some. I don't know. But I think they're going to figure out ways to use both of these guys because I think they're both good enough to help you. That's what I think.
It's funny you mentioned that, Couz, because I do think Garrett has the ability as an athlete to be – I won't say as impactful as David Sills was. I think that's once in a generation position switch. But I do think he could have – I think Garrett could get in a slot, learn it, and catch 30 or 40 balls this year. I think he's got that ability as an athlete.
Cole says, talking about the backyard brawl night, it says, I was in college that year, left at halftime of the UConn game, ran to a friend's house behind the stadium, booked 2 rooms in New Orleans. Then we lost to Pitt. By New Orleans, I think that's where they played the national title game that year.
Yeah. I was, I was in the military. So it was one of those things where I was so embarrassed, but I was crying. And I didn't want to cry in front of everybody, but they knew I was upset. It was one of those situations where I rooted so hard for West Virginia that everybody there that didn't have a rooting stake in it was rooting against me just to see that happen to me and fail. And so I was so upset, I wasn't taking it well at all. I was being like, they were calling me a sore loser and everything. And I ran away and ran to my bed and laid down and literally with the light off cried, and they kept coming in there messing with me. And I mean, I was ready to fight about it. I was ready to fight over it for sure.
Yeah, I was at a company dinner in Roanoke, Virginia, in Virginia Tech country. That same night, Virginia Tech was playing somebody in the ACC title game and won, right? So they announced that over the loudspeaker, and everybody in there's cheering. Well, I go up. I'm at a hotel. We're having it's a Christmas party, so I'm down and I keep going back to the room every few minutes to check the score because I didn't get to watch the game. I just kept going back and checking the score. I'd go up to the room. I'd find an excuse to go to the room, right? I got to go to the bathroom, whatever. And I'd stay up there for 5 minutes watching the game. Well, I come back downstairs, and my boss, who knew I was be with, he said, "They're losing, aren't they?" I said, "How you know?" He said, "I can tell by the look on your face."
Wow.
He said, "You're white."
Wow,
and
man.
And then a few minutes later, they announced over the intercom, West Virginia has lost to Pitt.
Oh,
and the entire place goes crazy, like celebrating, except me.
I bet.
Because they're all, they're all
Wow.
WV Mountain there with Kenny says, how are you going to recruit a highly ranked player and not put him in the game, which is Nico? Well, I mean, but you recruit these guys, Kenny, knowing they know they got to compete for a spot. And he recruited Garrett too, so.
Right.
Now Garrett wasn't as highly rated, I don't think, as Nico. So so still, I get your argument.
Yeah, Nico is. I mean, he's got it's very similar to what the kind of hype Geno Smith had coming in. Both were 4-star guys. Both were top in their state. I think Geno finished second. Ironically, he and Taj Boyd were both in that same draft class and both finished in the top 3 or 4 quarterbacks in the state of Florida that year. But Nico was the Arizona Gatorade Player of the Year. So yeah. That's and obviously what he did to Bishop Gorman on national television. I think that's another thing that a lot of Mountaineer fans think about is, how do you score 17 points in less than 2 minutes or whatever? Was it 2 minutes or 3 minutes? Can't remember. But they beat one of the best teams in the country in high school on the road, scored 17 or 18 points in less than 2 minutes to win that game, and he was puking in the huddle. I'll never forget it. He was hurt so bad, and he was able to push through that, and somehow, miracle, they won that game.
Yeah. I want to comment on this, and then I'm going to call it a night here shortly. But Curtis says, I was at that game. Pitt left the middle of the field open, and Rodriguez wouldn't call plays to go at them. Let me tell you a rumor I heard that night. About halftime of that game, one of the assistant offensive coaches went to Calvin McGee and or Rich Rodriguez, not sure which one, and said, look, here's what they're doing. They're stopping us on every play. We need to, and he said, they're leaving the middle open. We need to change up our scheme. We need to change what we're doing. And they basically told him, no, we're not changing anything. So take that for what it's worth. I don't know how true that is, but that's what I heard. And Jeremy Croy says, Paul, I was in the Army during that game. I get it. I was so mad that night. I lost it. I flipped out.
Thanks for your service, Jeremy. I was in the Marine Corps, brother.
Yeah. Jeremy and I went to high school together, played baseball together.
I'm sorry, Jeremy.
He's a good dude, man. And he's also a channel member. Thank you for your membership, buddy. Well, guys, we've been on here almost an hour and a half. I've enjoyed this. Paul, I thank you for coming on. Everybody, don't forget to go check out Paul's channel, Mountaineer Paul Talks Football. Go subscribe to him if you haven't yet. Most of you probably are, but if you're not, go do it, please. Channel members.
Be looking for
channel members. I will be having my koozies come in really soon. When I get them in, I will, probably do a live stream or something. Show them to you. I will be at some point getting your email or your mailing address from you, so I can mail you a koozie. And then I do have a giveaway planned as well for my subscribers who are not members, so that they can participate too and have a chance. Because after all, it's all of you guys that helped me get to 5,000. Now we're on the road to 10,000. Let's try to get there. I have a stretch goal of hitting 10,000 subscribers by the end of the year. That's very, very hard to do. Probably unlikely, but that's what I'm
okay to have it as a goal.
That's right. So, but anyway, and also don't forget to check out Paul and I over at Hoops from the Hills, where we talk WWE basketball as well.
Got some big stuff coming in the coming days on that channel.
Absolutely. We've got a lot of visits coming, a lot of big time recruits going to be on campus as far as from the transfer portal. And I got a feeling at least one if not two of those guys are probably going to end up coming to Morgantown. So, yeah,
we're almost to 2010 levels of excitement.
I'm telling you, man, Bob Huggins is killing it in the portal right now. Killing it.
Yeah.
Hey, Hank, man, we thank you for coming on. Whether you're late or not, it doesn't matter. We appreciate your support.
Yep.
John Kelly, haven't recognized you in the stream yet, man. Thank you for your support. Thanks, everybody. I'm going to sign off for the night. Everybody, keep country roads. We're out.